Our next segment here on the Instant Reaction podcast is segment number 13 right here on the Eastern Observer alongside Rob DeLuca, Mike Szabo. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We are blessed to have with us here this afternoon, of course, College Hoops Digest founder and managing editor, Josh Adams. Josh, welcome aboard again, sir. Good friend of our brand, good friend of mine as well. Thank you so much for coming on, man. How are things on your side of the river?
Things are well, Joey. Thanks for having me. Can't wait for this week to get going. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. And for those that are just joining us for the first time here on our Big East tournament preview, of course, this one will be featuring, and we will be trying to preview as best as we can the Seton Hall Pirates, who ended off their season 20-9, 11-8 in Big East play. And of course, we got a chance to see what January entailed for Seton Hall, which was not a fun one, of course. Josh and I were at a whole bunch of those games. And they got swept by Marquette, and they actually now are the number 6 seed heading into the Big East tournament. They will be playing on a neutral floor, of course, at the Garden to Georgetown. And they almost lost to Georgetown, Josh. That was something big last Wednesday. Kadari Richmond got hurt. He looks to be okay. But from what we're hearing from Adam Zagoria, he might just be able to come back and play on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, from what I understand, he'll be back. He'll be back Wednesday after getting injured early against Creighton. You know, the good news for Seton Hall is they still got a huge road win. Playing in Omaha is not easy, and come away with a win after Richmond got hurt early in the first half really speaks volumes to how they're playing. I think they're heading into the Garden with a lot of momentum. So who knows?
This is also a team that we look at and we say to ourselves that UConn doesn't want to play Seton Hall. No team wants to play Seton Hall in the Big East tournament. This team is going in red hot right now, despite I think just by looking at what they have done in their last 5 games. Oh, wait a minute. They've won all 5. And their last loss came against UConn when you were there, out at Gamble, 70-65. And since then, it's been a 66-64 victory against DePaul, 66-60 win against Butler, at Xavier, 82-66, against Georgetown, and then, as you alluded to, at Creighton, 65-60. And really, you look against Creighton and you say to yourself, well, Creighton's a really hard place to play out in Omaha. And they were able to come away with it without their starting point guard. And keep in mind also, Bryce Aiken was honored against Georgetown, and that's it. He's done. They're saying that it's, season-ending concussion. But I don't know, Josh. What are you seeing here with this point guard play that, they were able to make those adjustments against Creighton on Saturday?
Well, I think all credit should probably go to Jameer Harris for really being able to step into that role, backing up Richmond and then coming in and taking over the helm after Richmond got hurt. It's been such a relief to have both Richmond and Harris step their games up, especially in this last 5-game stretch. Their turnovers have been low. They've been able to distribute the ball. Harris is a 3-point specialist, so he's been able to sink some key shots, especially down the stretch against Creighton on Saturday. It's the Bryce Aiken's history. Hindsight being 2020. It's March, so you always want to kind of look back and go, well, maybe you shouldn't rely on Bryce Aiken because of his injury history, but he was playing lights out for him for the better part of the first half, and the season did turn after his concussion against Marquette. But again, it was no surprise that Richmond was a talent. I mean, he was heavily recruited, went to Syracuse, just didn't fit into the program there with Boeheim. UConn really made a big push to, Hurley said that they really made a big push to get Richmond at UConn, ended up at Seton Hall, and it's been to the Pirates' benefit.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And again, you look at also the other side, of course, you brought up with Danny Hurley. You also look at what Adama Sanogo could have done over at Seton Hall, but he decided to go down the it's a better route for professional basketball route. We remember those words very vividly. And I remember that. I'll never forget that. And that definitely will be something that Kevin Willard definitely has on his mind for sure, as well as the entire team. Mike Szabo, take it away here with St. John's biggest rival in the Pirates.
Yeah, so Josh, we've been saying Seton Hall coming in with fantastic momentum. They won the last 5, I believe, going back to the last 6. What's been working so well for them, Richmond injury or not?
Well, it's Jared Rhoden's really stepped up when necessary. You can say he was a little bit of a disappointment and kind of a disappearing act in January, but especially in this last 5-game stretch, Rhoden's been the guy that's really been stepping up for him. And to that, he got all for first team Big East honors because of that. This team really kind of revolves around Rhoden at the end of the day. His intensity, they play off of his intensity, and he's been able to string together some really nice games. And if that trend keeps going on in the Big East tournament, Seton Hall could really make an impact. Also, it gets lost a lot, and I got to keep reminding myself at it. But what doesn't show up in the box score is the defense that Miles Cale plays. When Miles Cale is a defense, you think offense with Miles Cale first, but the defense that he's played this year, especially because he's usually playing the other team's best scorer, he really has played lockdown the last 5 games. So the combination of Rhoden being able to put the ball in the bucket and Cale being a defensive stopper have really sort of made this 5-game streak happen.
Yeah, and something else too. I want to just kind of follow up on that with Miles Cale, and then we'll get it back to you guys. Josh, I know you and I have been to, and you especially have been to way more Seton Hall games than I have. But when I first started, of course, over at the Rock, someone that has been a defensive player for starters, Mike Ency. Is it fair to say that Miles Cale has a lot of tendencies that Mike Ency had when he was a player?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the problem that Cale has had is that everyone sort of thought that he would become the top scoring option for Seton Hall year in and year out. And especially coming in Miles Powell's shadow, they thought that Cale, once he got out of that shadow a little bit, that his scoring would increase. And he's just not that type of player. I mean, he does hit those 3-pointers when necessary, and he does have flashes where he's capable of putting 20, 25 points on the board. But I think especially this year, he's really sort of concentrated on becoming a leader on defense. And to his credit, he's not one that will make a big stink if he doesn't get the ball. He's a leader by example, and his leadership just shines on defense this season.
Something else that we also got a chance to see this season, of course, Alexis Yetna, big transfer out of South Florida, I believe. And what we saw with Yetna this year in the beginning, of course, he came out, stormed out, really, really good. And then he kind of hit a few bumps in the road. What have you noticed with him down the stretch that, they need to get him hot again?
Well, I think it's a matter of minutes with Yetna and the combinations that Willard puts out on the floor. You could kind of group Yetna and Jackson in the same category, as in they're kind of the X factors for Seton Hall on offense. Both of them are lefties. They're both capable. They both can hit a 3-pointer when necessary. They both do the dirty work, at the boards. They're both very athletic. But the problem is that it all depends on maybe the foul situation, and it also depends on how many minutes Willard wants to play Obiagu. It's all sort of moving these chess pieces that Willard has, because they're a very deep team. And when Yetna plays and averages, if you get 15 points, maybe 7 or 8 boards from Yetna, 12, 14 points, 6 boards from Jackson, that's when Seton Hall's at their best. So, again, it's getting him the touches that are necessary, and that's tough to come by when pretty much every player, sans Obiagu, can score in that lineup.
Rob DeLuca, go ahead, take it away.
All right, Josh, let's we take a quick look at the preseason poll. Seton Hall pretty much performed to what they expected to, because you can't really account for Providence shocking the world there by winning the Big East. So Seton Hall right around expectations, drew the 6th seed, playing Georgetown Wednesday night, didn't win a single conference game, the Hoyas. But this is obviously the Big East tournament, and we saw what happened last time right there in New Jersey, right down to the end of the game there. So this is clearly a game that Seton Hall should not take lightly. And with with Kadari Richmond not being 100%, could there potentially be a little bit of a alarm bell raised? Maybe we have a little more work cut out for us than we think.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't take Georgetown lightly at all, especially from what I saw on Wednesday. I think Georgetown's capable of beating Seton Hall, frankly, if they take them lightly. And also, that 9:30 Wednesday game is a dangerous game. I mean, that one, you're waiting around all day and all night to play. And if you come out flat, then it's really kind of tough to get it going again. I've sat through enough. I sat through a Wednesday Seton Hall 9:30 game against South Florida. We're talking a long time ago, where the final score was 39-37 at the end of the game. So those 9:30 Wednesday night games are brutal. Ask Jaden about that one. Are some of the most brutal sort of slugfests. And then you got to do a quick turnaround the next day. You win, so you're automatically kind of, you have no time to rest. So Georgetown's not. I think the 0-19 is it's tough to say, like, it's not accurate that they're better than that, because 0-19 is 0-19. But there is some talent there, and they did take Seton Hall down to the wire. And Patrick Ewing in Madison Square Garden, you never know. You never know. I mean, his job may be on the line. I mean, that's the thing. They're going to be playing for their coach, because their coach maybe show them the door the next day if they don't win on Wednesday night. And plus, don't forget, Georgetown made that crazy run last year in the Big East tournament where they just came out of nowhere and won the whole damn thing. So who knows? It's the Big East tournament. I suspect Seton Hall is going to win this one. But, yeah, if they lose Wednesday night, I saw Georgetown and I went, man, that's the last team I think I want to play at this point. I mean, they're dangerous because they are just so desperate to get that win right now.
Well, now the next thing that I'd like to bring up before we get back to Mike Szabo is, of course, if Seton Hall were to come away with the victory, and again, we hate to speculate here, but, we like to sometimes play the bracket game, of course. But if Seton Hall takes down Georgetown, up next is UConn. And, of course, both teams won on their respective home floor. You see there with the bracket that DeLuca kindly put up. Thank you. UConn and Seton Hall would go up at 9:30 on Thursday night. Another nightcap, back-to-back nights. If Seton Hall were to come away with that victory, it's really crazy to say that. Again, you have some storylines. We brought up at the top of our chat about Adama Sanogo. We brought up about. We brought up Dave Borges early on with UConn. The other side of it, with Danny Hurley going up against his alma mater, and of course, a lot of Seton Hall UConn history. So that would be going up on display under the lights of the world's most famous arena, Josh, 9:30 on Thursday, if Seton Hall can get the job done on Wednesday. How big is a Kadari Richmond injury that, could he be playing limited minutes on Wednesday? Or do you believe that he will be back to full strength? Could he propel them to I would say 2 straight victories, let's just say, if they were to come away with the victory on Wednesday?
Well, I would think that at that point, if he's going to play limited minutes, I think it's going to be Wednesday night. I think by Thursday, they'll do whatever sort of, as Jerry Carino would say, put their trainer Tony Testa's holy water on his thumb and see what happens going into Thursday Thursday night. Let me tell you something, guys. We're all in the New York, New Jersey metro area here, I assume. So let me tell you guys something. The Thursday night, if you have a Villanova St. John's at 7:00 and then Seton Hall UConn at 9:30, let me tell you guys something. That crowd will be electric, drunk and electric. People will be drinking all day. You're going to have a huge St. John's contingency, a huge Villanova contingency, a huge UConn contingency, and a huge Seton. And everyone, let me tell you something. Batten down the hatches that night at the Garden, because the atmosphere there is going to be insane on Thursday, and I pray that it happens, because I can't I can't think of 4 teams kind of grouped together on a Thursday night quarterfinal night at the Garden that would be any better than that. It's going to be fun. And getting back, yeah, I believe the first game against Seton Hall, if memory serves, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe in the first game, the Seton Hall UConn game, it went into overtime, I believe. And I think Richmond scored. Was that the game that Richmond scored like 15 points in a row in the second half?
Yep.
Just went crazy. Yeah, so there's definitely that potential for sure. The game I saw up at UConn, it was one of those games where just Seton Hall wasn't in it from the get-go, and UConn clearly was the better team. So neutral floor. You got to give a slight edge to UConn for sure, but man, like I said, by 9:30 on Thursday at Big East quarterfinals, that atmosphere is going to be those. It's going to be like Gladiator in there. So those players are going to be playing. Trust me, it's going to be tight. I think both games will be tight.
Well, it sounds like Rob DeLuca is going to start making his plans for Thursday night and pay top dollar for those tickets on Thursday night. Yeah, he's looking to pay Coach K prices on Thursday.
Is that what's happening? Is that what we're gonna do here?
Hopefully, see a better result than what they paid the Duke fans paid for Coach K prices against
5,500 to get blown out by UNC. Not bad.
Yeah, money well spent. Money well spent right there by the Duke fans for sure.
Oh man, Mike Szabo, go ahead.
Yeah, Josh, the other thing to go to going into this Big East tournament, in a tournament setting, neutral site and whatnot, in a tournament set, how important is Seton Hall's depth going to really be, against Georgetown or potentially if they go further?
Depth's everything in March. I mean, that was the strength of this team going from November on was their depth. I can think of that game against Texas in the Big 12 Big East battle. It was their depth that really put them over the top against Texas, because Texas is a great team. But that's what Chris Beard said after the game. He said, we couldn't compete with Seton Hall's depth. That's the same press conference where Chris Beard said, Seton Hall is one of the 15 teams I think that could win the national championship. And if you know Chris Beard, he's not into hyperbole. At that point, it was their depth. That's the thing. The fact that they can have a guy like Obiagu come out, establish protection at the rim, then take him out for 5-6 minutes, bring in athletic forwards like Yetna and Jackson and don't forget Tyrese Samuel as well. Bring him in as well as rim protection. When Aiken went down, of course, the guard production, thinned out a little bit. But when you have as much depth in the front court with Obiagu, Samuel, Yetna, and Jackson, and with Roden, and then guard, you have Kale. You can put Kale at the 2. Kale, Harris, Roden. It really is. When it comes to March, when you're playing these back-to-back nights, it's all about depth, because you're going to get tired. And if you're playing, if you have a 7-man rotation, it's just not going to happen for you. So that is, when it comes to Seton Hall's, when you're looking at their March factor, their depth is the number one thing that they have going for them.
Yeah, and they continue to climb, in their pursuit for March. Keep in mind also, last year they did not make March Madness. They did not make the field of 68. That's a big deal, especially for Kevin Willard, as well as the entire Seton Hall Pirate fan base, as well as the players too. They are used to winning and just continuing their march, and their season ending March 10th ish or 11th is not anything that the Pirates want to be doing. They want to be playing later into March or even into weekend number 2. DeLuca, go ahead. What else you got?
Yeah, let's look a little more big picture with Seton Hall, Josh. Seton Hall's kind of right on that cusp right now. It's not really clear what their March Madness hopes really. They're very unclear, very interesting. So what does Seton Hall need to do? Is it going to take more than just a win against Georgetown to go dancing to the big tournament? Or do they need to pile up a couple of more wins, like maybe upset UConn? And or more. What do you think about that? Where does Seton Hall lie in terms of March Madness?
Oh, I think Seton Hall's assured a spot in the NCAA tournament, Rob. I think they have 7 quad 1 wins, 6 or 7 quad 1 wins. They're all but assured. I think the big question is where they're going to be seated. I saw SB Nation's Chris Dauberson had him as a 6 line. Most like the Joe Lenardi, Jerry Palm have him in the 8-9 line. So I saw him at a 7-10. I forget who. I think USA Today had him at a 7 at the 7 line today. So there's somewhere going to be between 6 and 8. I think ultimately you want to be obviously the higher. You don't want to the 8-9. You kind of want to avoid because you're going to end up playing the 1 seed, in their backyard in the second round. If you get out of the 8-9, because you're going to play a team comparable to you. Ultimately, I think they'd won. I think if they win Wednesday and they beat UConn in quarterfinal Thursday and get in the semis, I think they're probably going to be a 6 or 7 seed going in. 6 being the high, and probably stay on the East Coast in Greenville or not that far away, maybe Indianapolis. Someplace not out where they usually Seton Hall's tournament history is they usually send them to the far end of the world in Spokane or Boise or one of those places, deserved or undeserved. But I think they'll be. I think even if they lose to UConn on quarterfinal Thursday, I think 8 probably. They're not going to be lower than 8 or 9 seed. I think so. Yeah, they're going to be there for sure.
So now we look at the bracket, of course, Josh, and we pull up this bracket here, and we've done this with everybody. We've done this with Kevin McNamara, Ben Steele, and we've also done it with Dave Borges as well. And now we're going to add Josh Adams to the list. So, Josh, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. You see this entire bracket. Would you like to make some predictions Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and potentially Saturday? What do you got?
I think Xavier beats Butler. Providence beats Xavier, which puts Providence in the semis. I think DePaul beats St. John's, actually. I think DePaul's playing better than anybody, as well as anybody right now. And then they'll play Marquette, which will beat Creighton. And I think it'll be Marquette and Providence in the one semifinal. Villanova. All right, let me figure this bracket out here. So Villanova will play.
Villanova's going to play the winner of St. John's.
St. John's DePaul. Okay, so all right, gotcha. So it'll be Providence, Marquette in the one semi. Villanova will play the winner of St. John's DePaul. So I'll have Villanova and DePaul in there. So Villanova will beat them. So Villanova will be in the semi. UConn, Seton Hall. I hate this game so much. I really, really do. I think UConn pulls it off at the end. So we'll go UConn. Villanova in the other semi. God, I hate this, but I think Shaka Smart and Marquette beat Providence in the semis. So I have Marquette, and then I have Villanova over UConn barely in the semis. So it'll be a Marquette-Villanova final, and I have Villanova winning the Big East tournament.
Again, wow. Okay, well, listen, I mean, it's, and I'm sure a lot of Seton Hall fans do not want to hear that. That's for sure. So
I'm a realist, Joey. What can I tell you?
Oh, I know. Oh, my goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd be heavily wrong, believe me.
Yeah, exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, NCAA Hoops Digest, excuse me. Josh Adams, managing editor and founder of the site. And, of course, our good friend of the brand and, of course, a good friend of mine as well. Josh, thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. And I will see you on Wednesday night. Should be tons of fun and should be a late one with tons of coffee.
Get the coffee brewing. Hey, thanks again, Joey. Nice talking with you guys, Rob and Mike, and have me on anytime. Happy to do it.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we will end off our nightcap with Dan Stack and DePaul. It's going to be myself, Mike Szabo, and Ian Schreier will be welcoming Dan Stack from wearedepaul.com. We will be right back later on tonight right here on the Eastern Observer.